Hello guys, today I want to make a quick beginner's guide on naval warfare in Shogun 2. It pretty much works the same across all eras. The base era simply represents it in the most diverse way that covers pretty much everything. So we'll talk about the units and then we'll get into it and talk about how it is different than land battles and kind of approach it even if you don't know how the land battles work. So to start, we have light, medium, and heavy ships. As you might guess, the lighter the ship, the higher the maneuverability. That's how fast the ship can turn, pretty much. How fast it can go and move. We have hull strength, which will up itself every single time you go up a tier. It's literally going to double every tier. Now, some of these heavy ships can have some decent maneuverability, as you can see. And some of the medium ones can be not so great as well. The thing about naval ships is that they're all ranged to some extent. So if we go look here, we have a mixture of spearmen and archers. Up here, a mixture of spearmen and, well, these are guns, basically. The kobayas here literally just have guys sitting on them, standing on them, either shooting bows, shooting guns, matchlocks from the base game, guns later on, and throwing firebombs if you get the firebomb. These are very different things, but these do cover a lot of it. So bows are going to shoot up and over. They have good arcs. They can shoot fire arrows. It's very useful. The guns usually are better for actually killing enemy crews. And you'll see they do have the same range and stats other than that. But they can actually point forward and shoot pew pew. Line of sight can be an issue though. A bow kobaya can actually shoot over a friendly ship and then hit another one. A matchlock needs to be in front. And then the firebomb, which doesn't really have missiles, it just has to get right up alongside a ship so that you are in range to throw basically a bomb at an enemy. And that's how these work. They have less guys because of that, but otherwise it's a similar ship, slightly more morale to help them survive, costs a lot more, very specific to use, very easily supported by bows. With medium ships, the medium boon is pretty much just your bow kobaya. The Sengoku is a little different here. It's faster, it's more expensive, it's a completely different shape. You have a lot more melee units here, as you can see. The swordsmen, they have swordsmen now. We're not talking just spearmen. These are aggressive ships. We have swordsmen. Infantry versus infantry, much better. Generally, more expensive is the idea. And then we have the siege tower boon, which is our progression from the matchlock. Essentially, we take the gunners and we put them in a tower on the ship so that line of sight matters less, so we can just fire down. Very expensive. Very up to you if it's worth it. It's just as slow as the medium boon. That is a lot cheaper than it. And then very expensive, though becoming the standard by Fall of the Samurai, is the cannon boon, where we have cannons and crew to man the cannons. These guys you do not want to get in melee, but if you pull them up besides other ships, they are going to devastate them far more than a firebomb kobaya could. And generally, as we can see, with more survivability, just given the general size. With heavy ships, we have 3 options, and they all have bows. The Nihon Maru is kind of like your capital ship. There's technically more than this. There's a black ship as well you can get in the campaign. It's like a Portuguese ship, essentially. A Portuguese European ship is what it is. It's very powerful, more powerful than any of these. The European ships put these to shame. If you see a European ship and a Japanese ship, just assume the European one's probably going to win. But the heavy boon is just a progression from the medium boon, which is a progression from the bow kobaya. This is the main Japanese play style. We can then go heavier in general with the Otaka. We do lose all that maneuverability, but we make it a little tankier. No gun, no cannon options here until we get to the Nihon Maru, which is just a direct upgrade. It's very linear in case you're used to Rise of the Samurai at all, until you get to the Nihon Maru, which is just way more expensive. And then eventually the black ship, which is where the guns come back and the cannons. And it just puts all of these to shame, not even close. But this is a very basic fleet. I just made 2 sides with essentially the same fleet. And we're going to ready up and start one of these. You'll see the naval battles. They can have islands. These are just there for maneuverability. You cannot land on the islands. You cannot fight with land units. So now that we're in the battle, I can show you. This is our Sengoku Bune. Bune is how they say it. That's right. Your very few ranged units will generally go up front. and the rest of your melee units are ready for you to go board someone, pretty much. We have an example of a siege tower boon. You see, they can have the normal guys. This is how you'd usually fire from, just the sides of the ship on the Kobaya. Well, we could also have some up top here. Very good, but don't let this get in melee. Sengoku is like a perfect counter for that. And then the medium bune, which summarizes like every other bow ship in the game, where you just have a bunch of bows and a bunch of guys on bows, and that's basically all of it. But there's also some katanas. This is the impressive Nihon Maru, basically a Japanese castle on a ship. Very good at ranged and melee, really. We have our heavy bune. This is the progression of the medium one. As you see, it is very similar. You do have some kind of a tower to shoot out from here, but it's mostly there for protection. The Otaka here, which is really just more of a tank covered in samurai guys and bows. And then otherwise, repetitions. If we start the battle, we can see the enemies are way out there. I'm just going to show you kind of how that works. We do have battle speed. This is kind of to speed up. This is one of those effects to speed up. Fire at will. This is up to you if you want to leave on. Based on what kind of units you're bringing, could be good or bad. You can buff other ships with Encourage Fleet. There is War Cry, among other buffs that can disperse buffs. The Nihon Maru also has Encourage Fleet. The combat really works very simply in Naval. The pathfinding might be junk, but you take any ship at all, and you want to go fight another ship, you right-click it. That is it. There is minimal positioning in Naval. There's only pre-positioning. Otherwise, you're just giving attack orders once the combat begins, and they will place and fire by themselves, and from there, it is a stat battle. However, this is a Sengoku boon. Maybe I don't want him going and attacking this as we see the little bow with the bows. I want him to board, so we hit this button here, or B, and then right-click, and instead, it'll basically make a beeline to go ahead and hit the enemy, board it, get all these melee dudes on board, and try to defeat the ship that way. Don't worry about capturing ships. This is no Sid Meier's Pirates. You're trying to get them out of commission so that you can win the battle, is basically how this is going. The Nihon Maru, for example, along with this Otaka, because it's our general unit right now, actually. They can inspire the units around them, so you want to keep your units together generally. But when it comes to these naval battles, really, as you can see, it's going to be about positioning. Your matchlocks will need a direct line of sight to the enemies. The fire bombs will need to get dangerously close, the same as the cannons, unless we're talking about European ships, in which case they could be like way back here and just start decimating everything over here, no problem. That's kind of the technology disparity of the time. And in the campaign, you really do want to find these if you're being kind of naval heavy. Definitely, definitely. The bows can support just about anyone everywhere, but remember what I said about the pathfinding? You can't really do hectic maneuvers around. The ships are not that maneuverable. They need to account for others. There can be some pathfinding issues. These will not respond as quickly or as maneuverably as land units will. So pre-positioning, getting them in a kind of a formation you want, then starting battle, and then going from there, making sure your melee is ready to intercept when you want, making sure your matchlocks are in position where you want, and the bows are kind of in a supporting position, and your flagship Nihon Maru type ships are not in any serious danger. And if you have the black ship, well, just destroy everything. That's your options, pretty much. Very simple compared to land combat, but hey, they only rarely ever implement naval combat anyway in these games, but I do enjoy it. That is a nice simple overview of basically how they all work. Rise of the Samurai is just going to focus on really the bows and swords, stuff like that, and Fall of the Samurai is just going to focus on the cannon and matchlock style gameplay, essentially. That's the only differences. And with that, you have a nice beginner's introduction to naval warfare in Total War Shogun 2. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions I didn't quite answer, feel free to ask those in the comments below. If you want to see the other guides I've made, that is in the description below in a playlist where if you see me missing any topics, feel free to suggest those in the comments below as well. For now, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.